Drive past a big green dealership right now and count the combines. Not the tractors, the combines. Class 8 and Class 9 machines, the ones built for corn and beans across the middle of this country, sitting in rows with the headers off and the tires clean. Last year, self-propelled combine sales in the United States came in at 3,579 units. That is a decline of 35.6% from the year before. More than a third of the market walked away in 12 months. Farm tractor sales fell too, 195,857 units, down 9.9%. But nothing fell like the combines did. And the machines that did not sell did not disappear. They are sitting on a lot somewhere near you, and somebody is paying interest on every one of them. Here is the first thing to understand about that number. It was not spread evenly. The hardest hits landed on the high horsepower equipment, the 300-plus horsepower tractors, and the Class 8 and Class 9 combines that dominate Midwest corn and soybean country. That is the most expensive iron in the catalog and the highest margin iron in the catalog. When that segment stops moving, a dealership does not lose a third of its unit count. It loses a much larger share of its profit. Let me say one thing, and then I will not bring it up again. I put 11 years behind a dealer parts counter into a manual called the Equipment Freedom Manual. It is at getacheron.com, linked in the description and the pinned comment. If you want it, it is there. That is all. I have been on the other side of this, and I can tell you exactly what a dealership does when a fall like that shows up in the numbers. Nobody panics in the showroom. What happens first is the floor plan conversation. A dealership does not own most of the machines on its lot outright. Those units sit on financing, and every month the combine does not sell, the carrying cost eats into a number somebody at a regional office is watching. So the pressure moves. It moves to parts margin. It moves to shop labor rates. It moves to what the service department is expected to bill per technician per day. And that pressure ends up in front of the only person left in the chain who cannot pass it to anybody else, which is you, standing at the counter with a broken chopper drive in the middle of October. That is not a conspiracy. It is arithmetic. When the big iron stops selling, the shop has to carry the building. I remember the first year I watched it happen. The showroom looked exactly the same in March as it had the March before. Same coffee pot, same brochures on the rack, same salesman leaning on the counter. What changed was upstairs. Somebody started asking the service manager for a weekly number instead of a monthly one, and then a daily one. Nobody announced a policy. The pressure just arrived, and everybody inside that building felt it before a single customer did. By August, the technicians were being asked to justify time that had never needed justifying. The loaner combine that used to go out on a handshake now needed a form. And the man who had spent 15 years telling farmers the honest answer about what a repair would cost started hedging, because he was no longer certain the number he quoted in the morning would still be the number at 4 in the afternoon. Now let me show you the shape of the collapse, because the interesting part is not that sales fell. Sales fall in every downturn. The interesting part is what farmers did with the money instead. They did not stop spending. They moved. Used equipment inventory tightened rather than piled up. Used combine inventory ran down almost 11.5% year over year at one point during this stretch. Dealer supply of 175 to 300 horsepower row crop tractors came into this spring down about a quarter from a year earlier. If farmers had simply stopped buying, the used lots would be overflowing. They are not. The used lots are thin. Meanwhile, the auction ring has been telling a different story than the showroom. Values on low-hour used machines came back 13 to 18% compared to the previous spring. Retail asking prices on clean, late-model row crop tractors moved up around 12%. Read those two facts together. New combine sales down more than a third. Used values firming. That is not a farm economy that ran out of money. That is a farm economy that decided the new machine was not worth what was being asked for it. And there is a third piece that makes it worse for the green dealer specifically. Custom harvest crews, the outfits that run north to south through the season and put more separator hours on a machine in 1 year than most farms put on in 4, have been moving toward Claas Lexion machines. When your highest hour, highest visibility customers change colors, the rest of the county notices. Those crews do not switch for paint. They switch because a machine that stops in September costs them the entire run. There is one more number worth sitting with, and it belongs to the planter and tillage side of the yard. While combines were falling off a cliff, used planter values went the other direction. Auction values on planters climbed almost 7% in a single month at one point, and more than 13% year over year. Asking prices moved up too. Read that against the combine collapse, and the picture sharpens. Farmers did not stop investing in the crop. They kept buying the tools that put the seed in the ground and skipped the machine that takes it back out. That is the decision of an operator who intends to keep farming and has decided his current combine has another year or two in it, not the decision of a man who is giving up. Subscribe if you want the equipment numbers straight, without a dealer sitting across the desk from you while you hear them. Here is what happens next, and this is the part that concerns me for our side of the counter. A dealership under floor plan pressure gets less flexible, not more. Trade-in appraisals get conservative. Loaner equipment during harvest gets rationed. Discounts that used to be a conversation become a form somebody in another building has to approve. You will feel the sales decline as a service department that is suddenly less willing to do you a favor. Then comes the wave nobody is talking about loudly enough. Auction analysts have been anticipating a large run of farm retirement and estate sales, and when that iron hits the ring, it lands on top of a used market that is already tight and already firm. That is going to move prices, and I do not think it moves them the way the doom talk expects. The cross-industry version of this is worth a minute. Boeing built its business on the idea that the customer would keep coming back for the newest airframe because the newest was always better. When that stopped being obviously true, the whole model wobbled. John Deere has run the same assumption for a generation. Newest is best. Trade every few years. Let the dealer carry the cycle. A 35% drop in combine sales in a single year is the market saying it does not agree anymore. Now the honest part, and there are 3 things in here I need to say plainly. First, this is not a John Deere problem alone. Combine sales fell across the industry. Case International Harvester, AGCO, everybody. Deere has the largest share of that market, so it absorbs the largest share of the decline. But if I let you walk away thinking farmers rejected greens specifically, I would be selling you something. Second, the honest driver is farm income, not just anger at Deere. Row crop margins have been squeezed hard. Input costs stayed high, and the base bank rate went from around 3% during the pandemic years to 8.5%. A combine is a financed purchase. When money costs that much more, the purchase moves out a year. That explains a large share of this decline all by itself, and any version of this story that leaves it out is dishonest. Third, on Claas. Their Lexion presence in North America is real, and their Omaha, Nebraska operation is real. but I have seen reporting on production being shifted around at that facility, and I am not going to characterize what Claas is doing with its American manufacturing until I can source it properly. If you own a Lexion and you know more than I do, the comments are open and I will read them. What I will stand behind is the number. More than a third of the combine market vanished in 1 year. Farmers who could have bought did not, and the same farmers went out and bid up used iron instead. That is not a market in retreat. That is a market that changed its mind about what a new machine is worth. The dealer network is going to feel that before Moline does. It already is. Subscribe if you believe an operator should know what his dealer's year looked like before he walks in to negotiate.